What is up, everybody? It is your boy Farai. Thank you once again for tuning into another video, man. So today we're going to be looking at pretty much how to mix some really nice upfront and expensive sounding vocals within the box without using any outboard gear. So I'm pretty much going to be showing you how I stack plugins up in order to really get that full and analog sound on the vocal mix. So yeah, man, we're going to be covering that. I'll also show you how I send the vocal to effects send so that we can really widen up the vocal and make it sound beautiful. So yeah, man, if you're in that, stick around, make sure to smash like and subscribe. Let's get it. So we'll firstly take a listen to what we have, and then we shall break down the mix. Let's get it. Alrighty, there you go. So that should be enough to really give you an idea of the sound that we're trying to achieve. We really want that vocal to be kind of immersed within the music, you know what I mean? So what I'll do is I'll disable the vocal chain that we have, just so you can get an idea of what it sounded like beforehand. Recording is good. Usually the things that, recording shouldn't be too overly harsh. I would rather have the vocal be more bassy, and this vocal is a bit more bassy, so that's kind of how we approach it. So I'll turn off the vocal chain, and then I'll also disable the effects that make the sound wider. So let's get it. So as you can hear right there, vocals sound good, but there is that kind of resonance going on. I think on my meter it's showing around like 357. We've got this like resonant on the vocal, but other than that, the treble sounds already quite sweet. We just need to really tuck things away and then flavor up the vocals. So what I'll do is I'll turn on the effects sends, the vocal chain, and then I'll turn on the effects sends after that. Alright, so there you go. As you can hear, we get a lot more wider. We're also doing a bit of parallel compression to get that loudness, to get those kind of words emphasized out of the vocal. So yeah, man, I'll pretty much start off with how I started mixing the track. So once all of the instruments are kind of sorted out and everything has been categorized and put into different kind of boxes and spaces, you can then start approaching the vocals. I like to work left to right always, so you can always put the drums on one end, so you can kind of build your raw foundation, and then you can get your bass going, and then you can do all of your instruments and acoustics and that kind of thing. So we've got the female vocal over here. First thing I like to do always is, before even adding any EQ or anything, what I'll do is I'll slap a 1176 type compressor on there and see how we can really just balance the vocal out. I don't want the vocal to be too loud. Obviously you can hear without any effects, the vocal's a lot louder, but that's pre gain staging, so everything else has been gain staged. So obviously if I turned everything, all the effects off, and that kind of thing, the vocal would obviously be kind of leveled with everything else. But yeah, obviously at the end the result is a bit lower but a lot more color. So that's what I'll do is I'll find an 1176 basically, is what I'm trying to say is, and then I'll do some leveling there. Okay, so I started off with this UAD one. I didn't really like it, so I then went on to a slate one, which was this one right here, kind of looking for a cleanish sound, more so than the vintage one, which is a bit more kind of distorted since it's a revision A. And yeah, we ended up going with this one right here, which is one of Slate's first plugins, I guess, and it's the transformer. I don't know, the FG4 one, whatever it is. I don't know, is it an SSL? I don't know, but it does sound nice, and it's really kind of how can I put it, it's really smooth, you know what I mean? It's really buttery, kind of glues the vocal together. So we'll see how much compression we're doing. So as you can see, when I transition between no compression and compression, all we really get is a smoothened out vocal sound, meaning that we really don't need to use, you know what I mean, like the treble and the bass are now more leveled, you know what I mean? The vocal sounds like one thing, you know, kind of when you're listening to a raw vocal, you can always kind of hear, you know, the treble pop out and the bass pop out, and just using a compressor before anything is really going to help you tame you know, kind of your vocal sound, get it kind of level playing field going, so that you can really then focus on toning the vocal. So yeah, there you go. Compression, we're doing about 10 to 7 dB of compression, really nice. A really slow attack so that we don't crush the initial beginnings of each word per se. So that's what we're doing. Not actually 1176, I was wrong, let's get rid of that. Yeah man, so next thing we did was a bit of C4. So this was to treat that resonant frequency that we found within the vocal. So if you just pay attention to how much compression we're doing. So yeah, really all it's doing is just getting rid of the boxiness out of the vocal, you know, just to make sure that on certain parts and phrases that boxiness doesn't kind of jump out, you know what I mean? So it's just a bit of more level compression. So think about it like this: we do overall compression, and then we do a bit of kind of more definite compression just on a certain section. That's where a multiband compressor really comes in handy. So yeah, after that, man, we then do a bit of subtractive EQ. So FabFilter is really nice for doing this. It's really just to hone in on frequencies that you don't like. So this is where that resonant peak was. You know, just dip away some stuff. The treble region was really a bit much, you know what I mean, on certain parts. I think with female vocals, condenser microphones tend to really pick up those sharp resonances at higher frequencies. So for me, I'm kind of sensitive to that, so I mix on the NS10s and just make sure that those resonances are not popping out. And yeah, that's pretty much what we did. So if I disable this, you can kind of hear the vocal becomes a bit less refined per se. So all it really does is just tuck away some parts of the vocal. I showed you that little resonant peak we had going on right there. We don't want to do too much, you know, we don't want to dip out too many mids. We kind of want to keep that warmth, but mostly just treating these highs, you know what I mean? You can kind of hear those really sharp high frequencies. If I play them for you just so you can get an idea. You know, that's just absolutely like ear splitting. So you want to kind of just treat that in, just really make sure the vocal sounds are kind of sweet, you know what I mean, instead of harsh. So yeah man, this is where we start coloring the vocal. You know, this is where we start really stacking up analog style plugins to get that sound. You know, one EQ can work sometimes if the vocal just blends in. I think a lot more mainstream music can just make use of just one, but when you've kind of got all these lush instruments, you really want to make sure that vocal has color to it. So we start doing some Pulsec EQ. This is a very colorful EQ. It's got that tube kind of emulation going on. Generally people might even track with this, meaning they'll record through it and then send that to a mixer so that you've already got that warmth on there. But you know, obviously if you're mixing a record, this is what you can do. So yeah man, we kind of start at the top right here. So these are two separate EQs. We've got the mid range equalizer, and then we've got the general Pulsec EQ P1A going. So I start off always by boosting, or actually what I'll do is I'll start off always on the bottom unit, and then I'll dip the bass, right? So I'll start off with this attenuation knob right here, and then I'll kind of just skim which frequency sounds best. Now the thing about these EQs is that it's not actually just starting at 60 Hertz, it's starting way later on in the frequency spectrum. So it'll probably start somewhere like, you know, 600 or something, and then it'll do a really nice kind of gentle slope. And then what we do on top of that is then boost again. So we kind of get this strange thing going on where we have a boost and a cut at the same frequency, but what ends up happening is we remove some of the mids, alright? And we also leave with some color. So, you know, you can kind of use this as a coloring box, mess around with the EQ, see what works for you, but I'll generally do that. And then what I'll do is I will mess around with the boost and attenuation over here. So what I'll do is I will firstly boost the frequency that I think will sound sweet. So I think I was on 16K yesterday, and then I decided today I quite liked 8K. It just kind of fits the vocal sound more. You don't want to go generally, in my opinion, over like 8 when doing this boost, because it just ends up absolutely like resonating the vocal in a really crazy way. But once you've done that boost, then what you can do is you can actually set your equalizer on whichever band you like right here. Sometimes 20 will work for a more modern sound, but 10 and 5K will really kind of dip the vocals highs away. And as you know, we had quite a bit of high frequency content going on. So then what we do is we dip away things starting at 10,000 hertz and really just turns the vocal into this kind of like tape effect. So if I disable this, you can kind of hear how drastically the vocal sound changes. You know what I mean? When Pulsecs work on a good day, you really get that like kind of Mariah Carey treble going on. I think Mariah Carey is definitely using a Pulsec on a vocal EQ. Where I get that kind of beautiful shrill going on is definitely out of this peak 5K right here. We boost this 5,000 hertz. It's really forgiving, really beautiful. And we just get a nice sound, and then mix that together with the 8K boost, and we just get this really like endless treble sound, but also not too harsh where it's like hurting your ears. All right, so that's what we really do. That's a coloring box. It always contradicts itself. You know, we're boosting and cutting and doing all these crazy things, but we leave with that defined and warm sounding vocal. So after that, man, we go for the SSL sound, and this is really going to give us our, how can I put this, our more critical vocal sound. Okay, so you know, with the Pulsec going on, as I said, it's a very wide sounding EQ. We don't get that critical sound going on, right? So if I was to actually disable both, very nice kind of low passy sounding analog vocal. Then we add our Pulsec, right? Then we've got our nice warmer sounding vocal, but then once we add in the SSL, we really get that detailed low end going. It just kind of sounds definite to one's ear. So what I do is, man, for some reason the SSL, the Waves SSL, whoops, I've messed up there. The Waves SSL is really good in these frequencies, in my opinion. These bottom two bands right here, man, Waves definitely got right on that. You know, any kind of cut you're trying to do, a 200, 250 kind of a cut like that, is always really going to work on the Wave stuff. Just sounds amazing. What we do is we kind of cut at 6.2 dB, or cut 6.2 dB at 200 hertz in a shelf style EQ, and then what we do again is just dip away some of this 500 just to get away from some of that muffledness out of the vocal. If I just boost this so you can hear, so you can really go either way. We could boost or we could cut, but I really wanted to get that kind of Mariah Carey vocal sound on this, so we chose to cut. And yeah, sometimes you might compress, but since we've done quite a bit of compression, there's really no need to compress. But yeah, man, so after that, again, what we do is we pull up some Pensado EQ. Now, this is kind of an unfair advantage. I mean, this EQ's really got some juju going on. It's got all sorts of strange, you know, this low band is not just a low shelf. It's doing all sorts of different things on different bands, so you get this really different vocal sound. And really, this is a fun box, man. It's got color to it. You can mess around with all of these bands, you know, boosting to get it warmer, cutting, you know, we're doing the same thing. But essentially what we're doing is just adding some character onto the vocal. This kind of gives it that mastered vocal sound. So if I disable it, see how every EQ adds another step of like kind of detail to the vocal. So that's where we kind of get our color. We're also using this preamp emulation right here. I don't know what it's emulating, but it does also have a bright sound. So that's really how we color our vocals. So just to kind of finalize EQ, if I disable all of these, so that's where we really get that mega air, but we wouldn't have been able to get that mega air if we hadn't done those steps prior to it. So you know what I mean? That's really the trick when it comes to mixing, is to really just add up until the point where you're like, oh, that's the sound, and maybe tone it back a little bit. I think these settings were way more aggressive, or maybe the settings were more aggressive here, but you know, you find a balance and you leave with that color. Obviously, you know, this can also be stacked against you if you don't do it properly. You know, things can kind of get a bit too muddy and digital sounding, but yeah, I mean, a mixture of all these plugins, the Waves, the Slate, and that kind of thing definitely give you a beautiful sound. And then again, even further, what we can do is we can use, I actually tried this for fun, but I've got the voiceover mic chain that I've been using. And what I do is I add this vintage drive, and then I use the op amp on the Slate API EQ, and then I just do some really basic cuts, As you can see, this cut right here is probably the deepest, 6 dB again at 200. Don't ask me why, it just worked. And then, you know, boosting some lows again to get that warmness out of the vocal sound, and just a few more cuts and that kind of thing. And then we also use this mixed bus thing right here just to get some tube saturation out of the vocal, I guess. And then we just use it as a trimming knob. We really don't need that. But yeah, that's pretty much all we do on the vocals, man. So, oh yeah, and then we use a bit of flanger just to smoothen it out. But yeah, man, on these sends, what we'll do is we will, you know, how can I put this? So we send our sends to all of these lighter blue channels. So we've got the delay, right? So I'm still going to be adding automation in. So, you know, on certain parts, the delay pops out a bit more on, you know, certain words and that kind of thing. But I always like to add what we call a delay throw, or just a never ending delay in the background of the track, just to really get this kind of cool sound going on. So what I'll do is I'll just boost each one so you can kind of hear what's going on. So really that's just your standard delay. This is a cool one. I've just been trying out all the Slate plugins. Really definitely worth that if you would like to buy. And yeah, it's just a quarter note delay. You could use the Waves H delay, you could use your stock delay, and then just add some sort of saturation plugin. This is cool because it has a color knob on it, so you can really get that gritty sound on it. But yeah, man, that's all we do right there. So that's our kind of delay though, that adds a bit of movement in the track. Next after that, what we do is we add in a bit of verb far. So basically, I like to use two reverbs when mixing these kinds of vocals. I'll use one for an upfront sound and then one for like this kind of long background sound that gives the vocal kind of this never-ending depth. So what we'll do is we'll boost that. So you get an idea of what's going on there. Right there, we're using the Liquid Sonics or Slate Digital verb suite. And we've got this kind of just preset right in the middle, vocal preset that just seems to work. I like Slate because they really have a no BS policy for good presets. They just sound good. And then I just kind of adjust the pre-delay, and then adjust the decay maybe, I don't know. I think I did definitely adjust the EQ, but yeah, that's pretty much what we do. So we've got our far delay, our far reverb that gives us that sound. And then what I like to also do is do a nice little classic, you know, kind of vocal double close delay, right? So, or kind of chorusy sounding slap reverb, whatever it is, but I will boost it and I'll let you hear. So there you go, that's kind of what it sounds like. You know, it is easy to get carried away with it because it sounds so sweet and it's kind of like candy. You know, you want to eat more, but it's cool just to keep in the background. You don't want it to modulate too much. So yeah, those are two kind of reverb, kind of flangy things going on. And then we've got a real flanger, H3000, definitely a beautiful piece. I have one right here, which I have on voice double. I'm not actually using it in this track. I think I'm using it on the background vocals, but yeah, that's for another day. But we've got this one right here, and we use the dual 910 preset. I've also got that preset right here on the real one. And this is where we get that kind of 3D close-up sound. So if I boost that, and there you go, it sounds pretty cool to me. But yeah, man, we also do a bit of parallel compression. Might as well just talk about that. So I like to parallel compress vocals with some cool Waves plugins, and this is what I'm doing. Generally, I will, this is kind of a cool preset I found from Little Skies Engineer. But really what I do is I just parallel compress the heck out of the vocal, and then I just tone it how I like with an SSL style plugin, and then you kind of emphasize the sound. So if I was to boost it, and there you go, man. So that's pretty much how we mix expensive sounding vocals. Hopefully you learned something, man. You're gonna go mix your own expensive sounding vocals. Definitely check out the link to the stems in the description box. You can actually mix the song for free if you like. So definitely try these techniques out, mix the track and see how it comes out. But yeah, man, it's your boy Farai. Hopefully you learned something. Definitely check the links in the description as well if you are an FL Studio user and want some hip-hop vocal presets, as well as my vocal mixing course. But yeah, man, I'll check you out next time. Peace out.